The Lord brought it to my attention that many of his people have been what is called blacklisted. Their names have been put on a list, a black list, to prevent them from having access to tangible resources and benefits that are crucial and pertinent for them to survive. And the enemy has done this to retaliate against them. This is a form of retaliation and punishment that has been used to make these people give in to Satan and to penalize them for certain things that they have done. Now, I'm going to look up the dictionary. In the dictionary, I'm going to look up the meaning of blacklist, and it means to put someone's name on a list of people who are considered not acceptable, which keeps the person from getting jobs, going certain places, or doing particular things. Now, when these people's names have been placed on this blacklist, usually what happens is their quality of life will significantly plummet. It will diminish drastically. Meaning these people, all of a sudden, their lives will take a complete turn where they're no longer able to have success. They'll find themselves not able to obtain jobs. They no longer have money. They're pretty much ostracized from society. People will no longer affiliate themselves with them. Sometimes their families will turn against them, and they will be deemed as an outcast from society. They will not have access to certain things that people use or are supposed to have access to so they can obtain a certain quality of life. Meaning these people, sometimes they will find it very difficult to pay their bills. They might not have a house. They might not be able to do certain things that they used to do in their previous life. And the Lord was letting me know that the enemy has put these people on the blacklist for many of different reasons. There's a myriad of reasons that the enemy puts these people on blacklists. And one of the reasons that these people are placed on a blacklist is because they have divulged some type of information that exposes the kingdom of darkness, evil, the wicked agendas that the enemy has been doing to keep God's people in bondage. And God has basically equipped these people with the information and knowledge and wisdom that they need so that they can divulge certain information to God's people to free them from bondage. Because as you know in the Bible, it says that God's people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And so the enemy has devised certain clever tactics and schemes that he keeps hidden, certain agendas that he has done to keep God's people in bondage. And when God gives information to his people and they use this information and expose the kingdom of darkness to free God's people, the enemy retaliates by placing these people on a blacklist. And so these people are suddenly deprived of basic living, basic things they need to obtain life. And this is done as a way to pretty much punish these people and to retaliate against them and make these people give in. The enemy wants these people to surrender to Satan's tactics and give in to them. And so there's another reason. And one of the most main reasons that people are blacklisted is because, as you know, God has endowed his people with different gifts and talents and abilities. And some people are blessed with certain talents and gifts that are highly sought after by the kingdom of darkness. Because as you know, God uses vessels and his servants. He uses the intelligence, the creativity, the knowledge, the talents, whatever, for his kingdom. He uses vessels to fulfill his purpose, to use their gifts to edify his kingdom and bring people to him. And so Satan wants to exploit these people's gifts. When they're highly talented people who are blessed with lots of gifts and lots of talents and benefits, Satan wants these people, he wants to use them. And some of these people are deceived into using their gifts and talents for Satan's kingdom so that they can now be used as an agent and a vessel to bring people to the kingdom of darkness. And Satan will exploit these people's gifts and have them using their gifts to bring other people into bondage and have them being influenced to be used for Satan's kingdom, to bring people to Satan. This is why you might see certain things that are happening to society that is going up against God's agenda, because these people have been and deceived to use their gifts and their talents for Satan's kingdom. They have been led and influenced by the fame and the money and the power, and they're using these things. They're walking after the lust of their flesh, and Satan has cleverly deceived them into using their gifts for his purpose, to be an agent to bring people to his kingdom. But on the contrary, God wants to use his own vessels. And as you know, all the people, we all belong to God. These are all God's people. Whether you accepted him or not as your savior, you all belong to God because God has created these people. God has created every person here, every person that breathes life. God has put life into them. He has blessed them with their gifts. And see, when a person has refused to go according to Satan and follow his agenda and use their gifts for Satan's kingdom, Satan retaliates against them by placing these people on a blacklist, and it's a means to give them to force them to give in. He'll make life very difficult for them. And when these people are, like I said, when they're on this blacklist, they cannot have any form of success. Their quality of life will suffer significantly. They cannot take care of their families and their children. They're deprived of the most basic things in life, the basic resources that they're supposed to have, tangible things that they need to survive. And the Lord let me know a long time ago that I was blacklisted, and I had always been a highly intelligent girl who was gifted with different levels of gifts and talents. I had lots of different abilities, and I had gone to private school. I had gotten a private school education, and I was always the type that could catch on very quickly, and I would have no problems getting jobs. I, could get a job, and I was, highly sought after. I would always attain these nice jobs. I had a diverse set of gifts and skill sets that I could use, and I would never find myself without a job for no more than 2 months. Usually, if I walked away from a job or left a job, I could obtain another one right away. I'd have another job within 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, my quality of life has significantly changed, where I found it becoming very difficult for me to get jobs. I would go 7 months, sometimes even years, without having a job. I found myself having to live on welfare and receive public benefits because I could not get a job. I've written books that people would not purchase. I've started businesses and nothing would come over. I would not have any sales. My business would suffer. And the Lord let me know that I had been blacklisted because I had written a weight loss book. I had written a weight loss book many years ago. And in that book, I was talking to people about how to go to Christ and how to give their lives over to him and how to break free from bondage. And see, the enemy, when I wrote that book, the Lord let me know the enemy thought that I was a traitor. He deemed me a traitor and put me on this blacklist because, as you know, my father had offered me up to Satan a long time ago, but I belong to God. I gave my life to God when I was 6 years old. Even though I walked away from him and went out in the world and did my little thing, I came back to God. And when I came back to him, I had written a book. And so the enemy had placed me on a blacklist where no one was able to help me. And I saw that I could not have jobs. I lived on poverty, and I found myself, making just a few $100s, less than $1,000, trying to survive off of 3 people with that money. And I became highly upset. And it's like every time I had something, the enemy would destroy it, my personal possessions, all of my cars and everything. I found myself not able to have a house. People would not help me. People wanted to help me, but they would not help me. And as you know, when you're blacklisted, if a person helps you, they become blacklisted. They could lose everything. And there was a lot of people who wanted to help me. And they could not help me. I could not have a mate. God had said I was supposed to have a husband. But every time I would go on a date and God would put a man across my path, everything would go fine. And I would go out with this person. Then all of a sudden they would just not call me, or they would just disappear from my life right away. And the Lord was letting me know the enemy had done this. And so when you're blacklisted, you're not, the devil says that you cannot have access to anything. Basically, your whole life, you're supposed to suffer, where you're cut off and you're shunned from society. You're labeled an outcast. And see, this is something that is demonic. This is a form of bondage. As you know, Jesus Christ came to set the captives free. And whosoever the Son sets free is free indeed. And God does not put his people in bondage. Everything in this earth belongs to God. The silver and the gold, the fullness thereof, every person belongs to him. All the resources are his. And so you cannot blacklist what God has already given the authority to succeed to. He has already given the destiny to go ahead. He's already given the green light to his people. So the enemy cannot put his people in bondage. And so I'm here to let you know that God is destroying all the blacklists. If any of you have found yourself living, suffering because of this blacklist, because there have been people who have lost their lives. There have been people who have not been able to eat, people who have been denied health care, people who have been put in captivity because of these blacklists. They have lost their freedom because of these blacklists. And this is something that God has a problem with. And he has come here to set his captives free. And see, these are the last days, and he has a work for his church to do. And his people cannot do that work where they're shut up in bondage, when the enemy is depriving them of the resources and not allowing them to have the things that he needs for them to do his work and edify his kingdom and bring people to him in these last days. And so, see, I'm here to let you know that God said he's destroying the blacklist. We're putting these blacklists now. We're calling on the fire of God to destroy every single blacklist. And see, this blacklist, ain't no blacklist gonna stand against what God said is supposed to prosper. And God is here to bring me here today to let you know that he is destroying every single blacklist that ever been put upon your life. And all those who have put you on these blacklists, all those who have cut you off, that their heavens will be iron, their earth will be brass. Because as you know in the word, it says, if you're for captivity, as you're for famine. Yes, people cannot eat. There have been people who cannot eat because of these blacklists. And so whoever has put you on these blacklists now, they're going to be on the blacklist. They're going to be blacklisted. That's what the Lord brought me here to say today, that he is destroying every single blacklist, and he is bringing freedom and deliverance to all of his people.